Hello guys, this is FX Trading Academy and welcome once again to my YouTube channel where we do mostly the top-down analysis of different financial assets. And today I'm going to be reviewing BTC USDT, that's Bitcoin against the US dollar. The last time I analyzed BTC was on the 20th of October. I'm currently on the monthly time frame, and if you can see, this was on Monday, the 20th of October. And I made us to understand in that analysis video that Bitcoin was going to drop, even though, if I'm to shift this, even though there was a push immediately after the analysis with this green candle, but definitely we can see that the price of Bitcoin since then has been dropping downwards. And I also made us to understand a certain level where I thought price would be dropping to, and currently price is close to that particular level because I actually predicted Bitcoin dropping below $100,000 before trying to pick to rally up again. And you can always check out that video. It's on this particular channel. Now, I'm not saying that because I want to come here to say I told you so. I'm saying that because there was a method I followed to arrive at that particular decision following the analysis, and it's using pure price action trading strategy, top-down analysis, which I'll be doing now to further inform us again what I think Bitcoin will be doing next. So I like starting my analysis from the monthly time frame. And from that last analysis, I made us to understand that on the monthly time frame, what we basically try to do is to get our directional bias and this, of course, the general structure of the market, as well as map out our key zones, which are these horizontal bars already drawn out on my chart. Now, just merely looking at this chart, we can see that Bitcoin has been making a series of higher highs and higher lows. And from what we can see here, this market is currently retracing. So where do we think it's retracing to? Has it retraced enough for us to start thinking that it's going to continue upwards? We can show this by going to the weekly time frame. Now, what I want to show us was something I tried to explain in my last video, and that's the fact that if I put this by that's the fact that if we go as far back as 2024, or let's say from January 2024, or even way back, okay, let's take it from January 2024, we can see that each time Bitcoin made an impulsive move, it made a retracement back to a particular zone. So if I'm to take this and draw this from swing low to swing high, we can see that Bitcoin always retraces to where I call the Fibonacci retracement golden zone. And if you've been following me, you will know that that's the zone between the 0.5 and 0.618 mark, or the 50% and 61.8% area. So we can see that there was an impulsive move upwards, and Bitcoin made a retracement back into the zone before setting off again. Now, this was like the first major impulsive move for Bitcoin last year. And then if we keep going, we'll see that it made another impulsive move. And if we should put this here, voila, where did price retrace to? Let me get a hold of this. So where did price retrace to? So when it made another impulsive move, we can see that price returned again to this particular area, which is what? The area between the 0.5 and 0.618 for the second time. So having this in mind, when I saw Bitcoin making another impulsive, we know that since the beginning of the year, Bitcoin has been doing a lot of highs. So since April this year, we just saw Bitcoin breaking a lot of price levels. So it was only reasonable for us to do this. Bring our FIB2 here again from the swing low to the highest level it got to. And of course, this was how I predicted that Bitcoin was going to drop. And the area I predicted it would be dropping into, of course, had to be this area, the same area it had been dropping to since 2024. And that's the area between the 0.5 and 0.618, which I call my Fibonacci retracement golden zone. And then I can now add my what? My trend line. Of course, we know that for trend line traders, once you have one touch, two touch, the third touch of the trend line normally does the trick. So we can see that Bitcoin is still maintaining a beautiful uptrend. However, just as I predicted in my last video on October 20th, that it was going to drop, even though it was going up, pushing upwards at the time. It was going to drop into this area, and to make the third touch of the trend line, you can see that it is almost already playing out. So we can see it just dipped into the area and had pushed upwards. So I'll still be expecting the price to push down a bit into this area. It might even come down to touch this major resistance, this major support zone from the monthly time frame. So the question would now be, what do we do next? If I go to the line graph, of course, for those that have been following my style of analysis, I try to always get a pattern to work with from the weekly time frame. Now we can see that, just looking at this, can see that this is a head and shoulder pattern. So this is the head, this is the left shoulder, the right shoulder, and of course, this serves as the neckline. So there are possible scenarios that can play out here. It's either we have this, of course, we know for head and shoulder pattern, once this neckline is broken, it's either price continues going downwards or there's a retracement for it to gather more momentum to get to its destination. And we've already predicted that the destination we're predicting for Bitcoin is this area. Why? Because all the way from last year, it has been doing that. And of course, we use the behavior of price from the past to predict what we believe would probably happen in the future. So this is a head and shoulder pattern, which is a strong bullish reversal chart pattern. So I'll be expecting that if there are enough buyers, there might be like a retracement before a final push into this place or even to this support zone. However, that might be as a result of, that might even be the result of this rejection or this week we're already seeing from this monthly zone. But another thing we can take in mind is that sellers might just continue pushing Bitcoin and push it down into the zone. But what I'm interested in when it comes to Bitcoin is buying. So all this why, since my last analysis, I haven't engaged in selling Bitcoin. I've still been patiently waiting for it to get to this zone. And then there will be things I'll have to look out for before I start thinking of buying when, if need be. So what would be those things? First would be to go to the daily time frame. Now, one thing that jumps out immediately is the presence of, first there's a rejection of sellers from this zone, and then now if I zoom in even more, you can see that we have what? A long-legged doji candle. Now, the indication of this candlestick is two things. It's telling us, one, that buyers and the sellers are gradually getting tired of selling at this low price, and that buyers are what? Trying to come into the market. In other words, the presence of long leg doji is like an indication of those in control of the market at the time losing momentum and strength. But this alone is still not enough for me to buy or to start buying. However, another thing we can see on this daily time frame is this inverse head and shoulder pattern. The head and shoulder pattern. Now, how do I mean? We can take this as the right shoulder, this is the left shoulder, and of course, this is the head. So for, just like I said, buyers might have to push this upwards a bit, and then sellers will still have to push it down because of this particular pattern, because it's a strong bearish reversal chart pattern. However, like I always ask, how do we take advantage of this beautiful setup? All we need to do would be to see to look out for the presence of buyers in this place, and how could we predict or start thinking that that's happening? First, when we start seeing more green candles in this area, so if price is able to push maybe further down into these areas, then we can start looking out for the presence of buyers by way of what? How much green candles that we have. So if we can have something like a bullish reversal chart pattern, such as an inverse head and shoulder pattern forming here, or like a bullish candlestick pattern like probably morning star, or a bullish engulfing candlestick within this area, then we can now go further down to the much lower time frame to start looking for our buying opportunities. So even if we were to go down to the H4 time frame, we can see clearly that the chart is still doing what? Big lower lows and lower highs. But of course, because this is a very, very strong support zone, we can see the rejection already. So this 4-hour candle was rejected, and of course here we have a pin bar. But to show us that sellers are still in control of the market, even those red candles are indicating that sellers are still in control of those markets. But however, we can see that the sellers are losing momentum. So like I always say, how do I now engage in taking advantage of those markets? I always advise that patience is key when it comes to trading. So the first thing I'll have to look out for will be what? Like a change of character before engaging in this market. And what do I mean? Now we see the market making lower lows, lower high. This is a low, has made a lower high sort of, and we can see that sellers are trying to push down. So if I'm able to get something like this, price pushing downwards, and then I get something like this, price pushes upward, and then I get something like this, then I can start looking forward my buying opportunities upwards. Now, what do I mean? This would be like a change of character from the lower lows to price giving me what? A higher low. And then once there's a retracement, then I can start thinking of taking my buy opportunities around this place. So long as price keeps making lower lows and lower highs, it wouldn't be reasonable to try buying Bitcoin. A lot of people try to force this and they get their fingers burnt. So, like I said, we can see lower lows and lower highs. So that means from all indication, Bitcoin is still pushing downwards. So if we go back to the daily chart, can see that Bitcoin is still pushing downwards. But once we're able to get like a change of character, a change in the structure of those downward movements, then we can engage in buying because it has been going down for quite a while. So this is my most recent take on Bitcoin. Just like I predicted a few weeks back that it was going to drop down, and I also made us to understand where I believe it was dropping down into. The price is currently around that area. So let's watch Bitcoin closely, and if you're into the trading of cryptocurrency, you can compare this with your own analysis and drop your comments in the comment section of what you think might probably happen. So thanks again for stopping by this channel. Thanks for always supporting the channel. And if this analysis makes sense to you, do well to like, share, and subscribe. Like I stated from the start of the video, this is a trading academy. For the month of November and December, we're doing 50% discount for our mentorship programs for those months. So if you're interested in learning this strategy and style of analysis from the scratch, do well to reach out via the contact details on my YouTube channel. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.